Hey everyone, welcome to Smart Talk Radio episode 15. This is your host, Chris Zafoid-Karabats, and in this episode I'm going to cover some of the recent developments in SmartCash and BitcoinConfidential, including the recent launch of BitcoinConfidential mainnet, as well as what's coming up in the future and what the purpose of both these coins is. I hope that you'll understand why there are two separate coins serving these purposes and what the relationship between BitcoinConfidential and SmartCash is by the end of this short podcast. We're going to start off with development updates for SmartCash itself. SmartCash recently launched version 1.2.8 of the SmartCash node client, and that upgraded the network to the 100,000 collateral smart nodes to help increase stability and performance. We recently performed a stress test in which we sent about 750,000 transactions in a little bit under 5 hours. And that was a great initial slow test to see how the new smart node network would handle it. Overall, it handled it quite well. We had a max mempool of somewhere around 160,000 transactions during that time, and we lost 100 or so smart nodes during the process. So if your node went down, please be sure to check it and make sure the swap's enabled, it has enough memory, and that it's not on a VPS that's going to kick it off when the CPU load gets a little bit high. So moving forward, we are currently working on version 1.3, which is primarily the smart rewards and smart voting changes. The biggest change is, of course, smart rewards will move from a 1 month to a 3-month cycle. And this is, of course, approximate as it's block-based. Currently, it happens every 47,500 blocks, and it'll move to 142,500 blocks in the next version. Related to this is, of course, that will require that people vote on at least one proposal during the cycle to qualify for smart rewards. Because of that, we are moving the proposal system entirely on-chain so that it can be tracked during the smart node cycle, or smart reward cycle. And we think people will be excited about this, adds decentralization to the process, lets everybody track what's going on much easier than they do now. And we think this will be an overall big positive for smart rewards and smart voting. Another minor change is that smart nodes themselves will not qualify for smart rewards. So smart nodes will get their share of rewards, and rather will get their share of the block rewards, and the smart rewards people will get their share, and the two aren't going to mix. This will, I hope, make smart rewards a bit more attractive for people, as well as making sure that you are dedicated to holding for those full 90 days versus just 30 days, which is much easier now. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the network and everything moving forward. After 1.3, the focus will be on 1.4, which will include supernodes, which I've talked about separately, so won't go into much, other than say it'll be a mid 7-digit smart collateral requirement for the supernodes, and they'll be used for the SAPI and Electrum servers. This will add decentralization to critical SmartCash infrastructure and incentivize that people run them properly and run them different regions over the world so that it'll be harder for ISPs and governments to censor should that be a thing that happens. With 1.4 also comes the scaling upgrades. Right now we can handle about 100 transactions per second and peak at about 380 transactions per second. We want to increase this by quite a lot to become competitive with the PayPals and Visas and MasterCards of the world. So we hope that some of the changes we introduce in version 1.4 will move us in this direction quite a bit. We will be continuing doing stress testing on the network up to and past this point to continue testing for different areas of weaknesses, see what areas we need to improve, see if we need to improve the base system requirement for smart nodes, etc., etc. So keep your eye out for announcements for upcoming stress tests. We hope you'll be pleased at what you see over the next few months in that regard. For BitcoinConfidential, we did just launch less than a week ago on April 26th, at least as far as the United States time zones are concerned. And since then, we're about 9,000 blocks in, so almost through the first week. We airdropped 7.36 billion or so coins, and about 1 billion of them have been actively staked now. So that's quite a good claim rate for the first week. We've been quite busy in the support channels helping people claim their coins and figuring out how to both hot and cold stake. And we're excited to see where this coin will go. We opened trading on the Safe Trade exchange, and there'll be several more coming up in the next few days. So if you don't have any in the airdrop, you can now go to Safe Trade and get some yourself, or wait until other exchanges list it. And coming up, the first few releases will, of course, be bug fix, cosmetic releases, addressing any issues that people have encountered, trying to clarify help messages, add more languages, etc., etc. We're not planning on adding anything huge in the first few releases, mostly just tweaks and clarifications to keep things stable and happy as this new fully confidential coin is launched. Keep in mind that as of block 11,000, so that'll be Friday or Saturday of this week, so May 3rd or 4th. That's when the full staking rewards will kick in. For the first 11,000 blocks, staking rewards are 5% of what they normally would be to help with a fair launch and give everybody time to get staking going and get comfortable with the system. So as of block 11,000, the stake rewards are going to go up 20x what they are now. So be ready for that. Make sure you're staking and have everything stabilized then. You don't want to miss out on those rewards after that point. Also, we'll be working on things like web wallets and more mobile wallets and so on and so forth, but we're not pushing those until we get the network stabilized and are happy with how things are on the protocol side, because you don't want to get a bunch of third-party wallets involved and then make them all update a week later. So that covers most of the development stuff. Now, as for the purpose, I hope you all know why SmartCash is here, but I'm going to reiterate some of the base points just to clarify and contrast with what Bitcoin Confidential is for. SmartCash is for fast, easy, and cheap transactions. It's meant to be business friendly, and we're trying to get the currency back in cryptocurrency. Our purpose is to be used at the point of sale, and for business purposes, we want something so easy your grandma could use it. We want it to be an active medium of exchange. We did not have confidential transactions in SmartCash because we don't want regulatory burden to restrict potential adoption. We don't want laws in individual areas that force confidential coins to not be used to keep SmartCash from being used as a point of sale there. Another reason is, of course, that confidentiality adds overhead and slowness to transactions, which compromises the core purpose of fast, easy, and cheap. So you can't have fast, easy, and cheap confidential transactions at a point of sale. We want something that's faster than Visa, MasterCard. We want you with your smart card or your phone to be able to walk up to a merchant, spend SmartCash, and walk away without ever having to consider the confirmation time or waiting for the SmartCash transaction to go through. We did have zero coin in SmartCash at launch, as some of you old school people might remember. It was removed very shortly after launch, late 2017. It was all deactivated in early 2018. It was fully removed. The reason for this were ongoing bugs with zero coin, and we did not need that added overhead. So we just decided that the regulatory burden and the overhead was not worth the risk. Additionally, zero coin is a ZK Snarks style privacy coin, and you don't need to know all the technical details of that, but the key bit there is that all ZK Snarks use a signing ceremony. And now you have to trust that those involved with the signing ceremony did not save the keys involved, because if they did save the keys, they can make however many coins they want. And of course, the very recent major bug in zero coin is that part of the core protocol, if you exploited it, you could make as many coins as you want. Now, a lot of the coins say, don't worry, no more than 1% of our circulating supply was generated by these bugs. Even 1% is pretty bad for a lot of these coins. And they're all having to pull the zero coin stuff out and disable it. So it's pretty much a nightmare over there. So I'm very happy we no longer deal with it in SmartCash and didn't have to deal with it since early 2018. Now, that does tie us to bring us into Bitcoin Confidential. Bitcoin Confidential uses Ring CT and confidential transactions. This adds a very proven technology capability. Ring CT and such have been used in Monero for quite a while. And Bitcoin Confidential's purpose is always confidential, all the time. From block 1, Bitcoin Confidential requires all spending transactions be confidential. So there's no non-confidential transactions cluttering up the blockchain and making it easier to track down the confidential ones. So we think this is great and important. There's lots of reasons to have confidentiality. We are dedicated to a right to privacy, which is why Bitcoin Confidential was airdropped to SmartCash holders, because we know that a lot of the early adopters of SmartCash also like privacy. And also partly bought into SmartCash because of that. So we felt it only right these people get rewarded with Bitcoin Confidential. Now, confidentiality is important for various reasons. One of the major things that is upcoming is we are all aware that governments and banks and exchanges have a blacklist of Bitcoin addresses and transactions. If your coins get caught up in this blacklist, you can't deposit them, you can have issues spending them, you can't convert them. It comes a whole bunch of headaches because of the innate traceability of Bitcoin and even of SmartCash. So confidential coins do not have this weakness. Also, you have such things as you don't have to worry about anybody tracking your donations to bring up a recent news item, WikiLeaks. Right now, Bitcoin Confidential isn't accepted at WikiLeaks because, well, it's brand new. But eventually, we hope that all of these organizations will accept Bitcoin Confidential because it's very important that they allow users to confidentially donate to them. Also, there could be various reasons that you want to spend and don't want that on the immutable record, from paying your employees to potentially healthcare uses or various business-to-business purposes where the transaction should be confidential so that only the recipient and the sender can know how much was sent and who was sent to who. You'll notice that looking at the blockchain, it's very hard to trace where transactions go. The amounts aren't traceable, and it just makes things a lot harder to figure out what's going where if you look at any of the Bitcoin Confidential explorers. You may even notice that you receive a coin and you think that something must be broken because it says 0 Bitcoin Confidential, where the reality is you just need to unlock your wallet to see how much you received, because it does require your keys to even see how much you received. This is an excellent tool for confidential transactions, and I'm very excited to see how many people use it and what they use it for moving forward. Overall, this covers most of what SmartCash is for and what Bitcoin Confidential is for. I hope that you understand why we launched it, and I hope that you understand that development in SmartCash and Bitcoin Confidential will continue. As of right now, there's almost 100% overlap between the SmartCash and Bitcoin Confidential teams because of the way things were launched. As time goes forward, there will be people dedicated to Bitcoin Confidential entirely, and there will be people dedicated to SmartCash entirely, and they won't cross over at all. As for myself, I love both coins. I will probably continue to be involved in publicizing and supporting both, but there will be team members entirely on one side or the other side as time goes on. And I'm very excited to see how development of both goes. So from here on, I'll bid you adieu and stay smart and remember to think confidentially.